Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a letter from a fan. Dear Anthony, recently my mother hid away my collection of vinyls and CDs consisting of explicit hip-hop. The artists included my favorites, the discographies of Quasimodo, and people from Odd Future such as Earl Sweatshirt and Tyler, the Creator. Being a teenager and living under my parents' ceiling, she claimed that listening to explicit music can turn me into a violent person and is detrimental to my growth as an adult. She even went as far as to look up the artist and brought up how Earl was sent to boarding school and is no role model for me to look up to. I am the opposite of violent, and music, especially Odd Future, serves as a vent to channel anger. I honestly don't expect her to understand Tyler's lyrics of rape or violence, but I do want her to understand that there's more to hip-hop than meets the, or better yet, her eye. I'm not living precariously through the music, I just want my collection back. Coming up on age 17, does explicit music put a ceiling on how many people can enjoy it and the ability that music has to carry its message? Sincerely, Zach. Dear Zach, I'm sincerely sorry to hear that your records have been torn away from you. It's something that hasn't personally happened to me, but having been a teenager at one time who really loved music, I do know how important music can be to somebody at that age. When you're 17 years old, you're in this awkward phase between childhood and adulthood, where you've got all these really strong emotions and maybe views on the world and yourself. But the ways in which you can deal with that stress are kind of limited. A lot of what you do throughout the day is still sort of controlled to a degree, and you can't just go out and do anything you want at any given time and deal with the consequences like any other adult would, given that whatever choices you make to deal with your stress do involve consequences. So as a teenager, for stress relief, things like friends and expressing yourself and music become really important. And even though there is music out there that teenagers listen to that has explicit language in it, that doesn't mean that the music isn't backed with legit feelings. Sometimes when you're mad, swears come out your mouth. You know, it's okay. Anger is a normal human emotion, and the best way to deal with it is to acknowledge it and look it straight in the face, not ignore it or art that features it. Come on, Mom. But to your question of whether or not explicit music is limiting or sort of puts a ceiling on the artists that we're talking about, I mean, maybe in a way, but it sort of depends on what you feel like constitutes as a ceiling. For example, Eminem has come out with some of the most vulgar music on the planet, and yet he is one of the world's widest selling artists. While, yeah, he hasn't sold as many records as the Beatles or Elton John, I think that has more to do with other things than it does simply swear words in his music. But I think Eminem selling so many records across the world also disproves another thing, that listening to music such as Eminem's or Odd Future's will turn you into a violent person and stunt your growth as an adult. Because if this were the case, we'd have millions of uncontrollable, bloodthirsty, raving psychopaths walking the streets right now. If you want to prevent someone from becoming violent, then give them healthy, loving, respectful relationships with friends and family members. Because without those, people are going to have a hard time growing up and adjusting to the world, whether they have violent music or not. And I think one of the most important things about these relationships that someone can be in is that they're encouraging. I think stepping on someone's expressions, stepping on someone's tastes, especially as a teenager, can be really stifling. Instead, I think people should be getting encouraged to say what's on their mind. And I think that's it. Zach, I'm really sorry to hear about your record collection. I hope you get it back soon. If you really want to turn your mom onto some artists who are in hip-hop music and are not as explicit or are not as vulgar or nasty, there are records, there are artists out there that you could show her that I think might turn her eyes around on the genre in general, but still, you should be allowed to listen to Odd Future, you should be allowed to listen to Quasimodo records if you feel like, in my opinion. And you're just on the cusp of 18, and you'll be able to make those decisions for yourself very soon anyway. Transition, have you ever had your music collection torn away from you because the words were too naughty? If so, how sad did it make you? I can only imagine that makes you sad. But please tell me down in the comments your reasoning for why explicit music does not turn you into a violent or disturbed person. And, yeah, again, Zach, I hope you get your music collection back really soon, dude. Cool? Cool. Anthony Fantano, Explicit Music, forever.